They said human space was a graveyard of vanished fleets. The warnings were ancient, carved into the databanks of empires older than Earth's first satellites. But arrogance is a powerful drug. So when the Zaltari Armada crossed the threshold of Sol-controlled space, they didn't expect to vanish. They didn't expect to learn what humans truly were. And no one, not even the oldest of their kind, expected the silence that followed. The first Zaltari ship entered human space on the edge of the Kuiper Belt, a silver shard the size of a small moon. Its hull shimmered with refractive armor, beautiful and cold like the skin of a god. Admiral Vesh-Ra stood on the command dais, his 4 black eyes reflecting the holographic projection of Sol System. He sneered softly, mandibles twitching in contempt. "Primitive territory," he muttered. 1 star. 8 barren worlds. And they call themselves an interstellar species? His second, a tall officer named Cretan, lowered her head respectfully. The humans have expanded beyond this system. 22 colonies, mostly self-sufficient. They maintain fleets, limited by technology, but organized. Vesh-Ra gave a low hum that passed for laughter. Organization is a poor substitute for strength. The Admiral turned to the grand viewport. There, distant and faint, was a yellow sun. Sul, the birthplace of the newest, loudest species in the Orion Arm. He'd read the reports, countless warnings from merchant guilds and scout fleets. Human space was off limits. Their borders were unreasonably defended, their retaliation unpredictable. Nonsense, Vesh-Ra thought. These were the same primitives who'd only recently joined the Galactic Network. Who did they think they were, denying passage to a civilization 10,000 years their elder? He spread his arms and issued the command. Proceed. Transmit our declaration. The Zaltari Empire claims this sector by right of dominion. The helm screechers chirped their confirmation, and the massive flagship Vorath Eternal moved forward, accompanied by 300 warships, cruisers, dreadnoughts, carriers, escorts. A fleet built to end rebellions, to crush defiance. Humanity would bow or burn. Hours later, the message reached the Terran Defense Network. On the orbital defense station, Athena Spire, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Havelock watched the encrypted alert unfold across her display. Unidentified armada has entered Kuiper defensive perimeter, the AI announced in a calm female voice. Mass readings confirm extragalactic hull composition. Estimated fleet strength, 300+ capital-class signatures. Sarah blinked once, twice. You've got to be kidding. Her superior, Captain Renly Cho, floated beside her in the zero-gravity command bay, arms crossed. Patch it through to FleetCom. Already done. Within seconds, every defense grid in Sol came alive. Orbital guns pivoted from their maintenance rests. Patrol craft abandoned routine routes and aligned for intercept. And far beyond Mars, 3 long, needle-shaped ships rose from stealth bases buried in asteroid rock. They were the Silent Watchers, Terran black projects that officially didn't exist. "Sir," Sarah said softly, "we're not ready for a full-scale incursion." Cho didn't answer. He was staring at the live feed from the outer system. A wall of blue-lit ships advanced slowly toward Neptune's orbit. "Then we don't fight them directly," he said. "We make them wonder what they just walked into." On board the Vorath Eternal, Admiral Vesh-Ra felt a thrill of victory before the first shot was fired. The humans hadn't even responded yet. He took that as a sign of fear. Then the lights dimmed. "Admiral," said Cretan. "Sensors report interference. Local comms are degrading." Vesh-Ra frowned. "From where?" "Unknown. It began the moment we crossed the 50 AU mark, then find it. But the interference wasn't just static. It was organized. Pulses of electromagnetic noise layered with data fragments. It looked almost like a message. Cretan's claws danced over her console. "It's repeating?" "Translate it." The translation came through the ship's auditory array. A human voice, male, deep and steady. "Turn back," that was all. Just 2 words, spoken in every known galactic language, repeating endlessly on every frequency. The bridge crew looked at one another in silent disbelief. Vesh-Ra grinned, revealing serrated teeth. "How quaint," he said. "They think to scare us." "Admiral," Critan said hesitantly. Should we respond? Yes. Tell them the Zaltari Empire does not negotiate with ghosts. The communications burst went out, slicing across the void. For a long moment, there was nothing but the hum of engines and the soft whir of life support. Then the stars blinked. No. Moved. Admiral. Someone screamed. Objects incoming, 12 o'clock high. The sensors lit up with thousands of small blips. Not ships, not debris, drones, tiny dart-like constructs of black carbon barely visible against the void. They swarmed the outer edge of the Zaltari formation, their drives silent, their signatures faint. Destroy them, Veshra barked. The fleet opened fire. Beams of plasma carved lines of white through darkness. Drones vanished by the hundreds. Yet more came, pouring from the asteroid fields, from behind moons, from invisible launchers buried who knew where. Then, silence again. Target area cleared, Critan reported. No survivors. Veshra was about to issue a command when the hull trembled. Impact? No, sir, said the engineer. Not physical. Energy resonance, spreading through the hull. It's... The lights flickered, and every display went black for 2 seconds. When they came back on, the ship's orientation data was gone. So was the fleet map, and outside the viewport, there were no other ships. Veshra turned slowly. Report! Critan's voice was barely a whisper. They're gone. The entire fleet. Hours passed. No transmissions. No signals, no debris. The Zaltari flagship drifted alone among the stars. Veshra demanded explanations, but his crew could offer none. It was as if 300 ships had simply ceased to exist. Finally, a signal came through. Weak, distorted, human. Admiral Veshra, it said. This is Commodore Hale of the Terran Silent Fleet. You were warned, Veshra hissed. Where are my ships? What trick is this? Not a trick, said the voice. A lesson. Static swallowed the signal. Then, faintly, another transmission appeared. This time, from one of the missing ships. The image flickered, chaotic, fragmented, showing twisted metal and flickering lights. Zaltari crew screaming, running through corridors as if from invisible enemies. The hull itself seemed to warp, bending at impossible angles, and then the feed cut out. Veshra stared at the empty projection. His 4 eyes were wide. Find them, he growled. Find every last ship. But they never did. One by one, his remaining systems began to fail. Navigation, power, life support. The ship's AI began spouting human code, its circuits overwritten by something that shouldn't exist within their networks. By the time the rescue ship Karathul arrived 3 days later, the Vorath Eternal was dead. Every system offline. Every crew member vanished. Only one message was left in the data core. You were warned. 3 months later, in the Zaltari Imperial Council chamber, the disappearance of the Armada was the only topic on every mind. Emperor Tal Ven stood beneath the great banners of his ancestors. 300 ships, he thundered. An entire fleet lost. To primitives. The hall was silent. At last, one elder spoke. Perhaps not primitives, my liege. The humans have changed. The Emperor glared. Explain, the elder lowered his head. Our long-range probes detected unusual energy signatures in their territory. Unknown drives, quantum distortion fields that exceed even our theoretical limits. And there are whispers of something older, something human-built that even they fear, Tal Ven scoffed. Superstition. But even as he said it, he remembered the data core, the message left behind in a language as ancient as it was defiant. You were warned. He dismissed the council, yet sleep did not come that night. For the first time in centuries, the Emperor of the Zaltari felt something alien to his nature. Fear. In a hidden command center buried beneath the lunar surface, Commodore Hale watched classified footage from the Vorath Eternal. His eyes were tired, his face pale under the harsh light. A younger officer approached. Sir, do you think they'll try again? Hale sighed. They always do, but this time, maybe they'll listen. He turned toward the reinforced window, gazing at Earth, blue, fragile, and serene. People call us monsters for what we built, he said softly. Maybe they're right. But the alternative was extinction. The officer hesitated. What exactly did we use out there, sir? Those ships didn't just explode, they vanished. Hale's gaze hardened. Project Echo, he said. Quantum reflection warfare. Anything that crosses the field gets displaced, sometimes into another dimension, sometimes into itself. Is it reversible? No. The silence stretched between them. Sir, is it moral? Hale looked away. Morality doesn't win wars. Survival does. Meanwhile, on the edge of human space, a single Zaltari scout ship hovered near an asteroid belt. Its commander, Captain Jarath, was young. Too young to remember the old wars, too proud to believe in ghosts. Recording mission log, she said. Entering Terran border under stealth protocols. Objective, confirm rumors of vanished fleet. The ship moved forward, cloaked, silent. The crew's tension was palpable. Every sensor ping returned static. Every system worked perfectly, until it didn't. Captain, said the sensor officer. There's something ahead. Distance, 200,000 clicks. Shape unknown. Visual. The projection shimmered to life. There it was, a human vessel. But nothing like the warships shown in any known archive. Its hull was dark, absorbing light. The Zaltari Empire did not learn quickly. Pride made certain of that. In the months following the disappearance of Admiral Vesh-Ra's armada, the Empire dispatched investigation teams, scientific observers, and covert scouts. None returned. The Emperor's council chamber grew quieter with every report of signal lost, until silence itself became an accusation. Still, they could not stop. No empire that had ruled for 10,000 years could admit that something greater existed in the dark between the stars. And so, they prepared a second armada. The fleet was smaller, only 100 ships this time, but far more advanced. Each vessel carried counter-quantum shielding, interference scramblers, and the newest predictive AIs. Every defensive measure known to their science was built to resist what they could not understand. The head of this force stood High Commander Koresh Thule, a veteran who had never lost a war. This will not be a repeat of Vesh-Ra's humiliation, he said to his bridge officers as the fleet assembled in orbit over the imperial world of Olvaris. We go not as conquerors, but as purifiers. We will burn away the mystery of these humans and reveal the truth beneath their illusion. The fleet's departure was broadcast across the Empire. Millions watched, proud again, believing in the strength of their civilization. Yet in the darkest corners of the datanet, whispers continued. The humans didn't fight. The humans made them disappear. Half a galaxy away, in the Terran Defense Network's command complex beneath Luna, Admiral Renly Cho read the same reports and sighed. Second wave, he murmured. They really don't quit. The AI overseeing operations, a calm voice named Argos, flickered into the holographic sphere beside him. Probability of renewed incursion, 96%. Projected entry vector, same as prior fleet. They believe we used cloaking and mass deception tactics. Let them believe that, Cho said. The truth would keep them awake at night. Behind him, Commodore Hale entered, coffee steaming in his gloved hand. So they're coming again? Yeah, Cho said. And this time they'll expect ghosts. Let's give them devils. 2 days later, at the Kuiper perimeter, Argos's early warning systems detected gravitational distortions. The new Zaltari armada arrived like a storm, space bending as their drives decelerated from faster than light. They spread out, forming a crescent formation, scanning every direction. Koresh Thule stood tall on his bridge. Activate defensive counterfields. Sweep for human transmissions. None detected, replied his sensor chief. Empty space. Good, Koresh said. Then we hunt. But human space was never empty. Far beneath the icy surface of dwarf planet Eris, hidden hangars opened like mechanical flowers. From within, sleek black ships emerged, long, angular, faceless. The Spectre-class destroyers of the Terran Silent Fleet. They had no call signs, no transponders. Each was guided by human pilots linked directly. Through neural sync, men and women who'd trained for years to merge. Thought with machine, Spectre Wing Alpha to command. Came a calm voice across secure quantum channel. We have eyes on the intruders. 100 contacts confirmed. Understood, Hale's voice answered. Rules of engagement remain defensive. Make them think the void itself hates them. Acknowledged, said Alpha Lead. Initiating shadows. The Zaltari sensors began to fail almost immediately. One by one, their long-range scans blurred. Ghost signatures appeared where none should be, phantom fleets, mirror images of their own formation. The computers flagged thousands of false contacts. AI subsystems struggled to separate illusion from truth. Koresh's second officer hissed in frustration. Admiral, their jamming is beyond comprehension. Koresh folded his arms. Then we ignore it. They use fear as a weapon. We will respond with fire. He ordered his fleet to advance, slowly, methodically, toward the inner planets. Then the first ship vanished, not exploded, not destroyed, simply gone from every sensor, every channel, every feed. One heartbeat it was there. The next it wasn't. Koresh gripped the railing. Status! No debris, the sensor officer said, voice trembling. Just nothing. A second ship disappeared. Then a third. Find them, Koresh roared. Scan for... A chill silence cut through his words as every ship's internal lights flickered in unison. The communications grid overloaded, and then a new voice filled the command deck. Soft, human, uninvited. High Commander Koresh Thule, it said. You cross into human territory uninvited. You were warned, Koresh bared his teeth. Identify yourself. I am Commodore Hale of the Terran Silent Fleet, the voice continued, unshaken. You came seeking your missing fleet. You will join them soon. Empty threats, Koresh shouted. Show yourself! A long pause. Then, chillingly calm. You've already seen us. Every viewport brightened at once as the darkness outside began to move. Ships, invisible until now, shimmered into being, hundreds of them. Smaller than the Zaltari warships, but far more menacing. Their hulls rippled like liquid shadow. Koresh's breath caught. How? The Spectre destroyers struck. They didn't fire plasma or missiles. Instead, invisible pulses of quantum distortion rippled across space, folding geometry itself. The nearest Zaltari cruisers convulsed as their drives tore themselves apart. Hulls twisting into spirals that glowed briefly before collapsing into silence. Within minutes, 20 ships were gone. Koresh slammed his fist into the console. All ships counterattack. Fire on any visual target. Plasma beams lanced through the void. Missiles streaked. Human ships danced between them, shifting positions faster than Zaltari computers could track. And then, inexplicably, the humans stopped firing. The void fell still again. Admiral? Asked the weapons officer. Koresh hesitated. Suddenly, every Zaltari ship system came alive with human transmissions. Videos, images, recordings from the lost fleet. Screams of their own kind echoed through the comms. Crew dying in corridors twisted into impossible shapes. Koresh's mind reeled. What is this? A warning, Hale's voice replied coldly. You think us monsters. You think us primitive, but every monster has a purpose. To remind the universe what fear feels like. Koresh tried to respond, but the transmission cut. Seconds later, his flagship's hull began to hum. The same resonance that had consumed the first armada was back. The lights flared, went dark, and came back in a different color. Blood red. Admiral, shouted his crew. We're losing containment. Koresh looked out the viewport into the sea of black-armored Terran ships. For the first time in his long career, he felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not pride, but awe. Then his ship was gone. In Luna Command, silence hung in the air. Argos displayed the live telemetry in ghostly blue across the wall. The Zaltari signatures had vanished. Every one, Cho exhaled slowly. All gone? Yes, Argos replied. Residual spatial echoes remain, but the fleet itself has been displaced beyond measurable coordinates, meaning they no longer exist in this reality. Cho rubbed his face. That makes 2 fleets now. Hale crossed his arms. And they'll keep sending more until their arrogance breaks. Cho gave him a sideways glance. And if it doesn't? Hale took a long sip of cold coffee. Then we make sure it does. Weeks later, deep in the Orion Arm, an unmarked diplomatic shuttle arrived at Terran space, broadcasting a white flag code. It carried no weapons. On board were 3 alien envoys, not Zaltari soldiers, but scholars. They'd come with trembling hands seeking parley. Their message was simple: we wish to understand. Earth accepted. In a quiet meeting room overlooking the Pacific, the alien sat across from Commodore Hale. He wore no medals, no uniform rank beyond a simple patch that read Terran Defense Network. One of the envoys, a pale-scaled elder, spoke first. "Commodore, we come not as spies or soldiers. We come as witnesses. What happened to our fleets?" Hale looked out the window. "They crossed a line. You destroyed them?" Hale hesitated. "Not destroyed, removed." The elder's jaw quivered. "To where?" Hale turned to face them. "Do you believe in hell?" The room went quiet. The aliens exchanged glances. Finally, one whispered, "Then you are monsters." Hale's gaze hardened. "We became what we had to. You see, every time someone stronger came to conquer us, we built something worse than them, and eventually worse than ourselves." The elder lowered his eyes. "And you think that will save you?" "No," Hale said. "But it'll make others think twice before trying." Yet not all humans agreed. In a hidden lab beneath Antarctica, Dr. Mara Kessler, one of the architects of Project Echo, stared at quantum telemetry charts. "We can't keep using this," she said to her assistant. "Every activation widens the distortion field." "We're tearing reality itself," her assistant swallowed hard. "Command doesn't care." "As long as it works." Mara looked up, eyes hollow. "Someday it won't. Someday something will crawl back out, far across the galaxy, in the ruins of a Zaltari relay outpost." Strange signals began to appear, fractured, distorted echoes that carried human speech patterns, but no source. And somewhere in the endless dark between stars, a single voice whispered, "You were warned." For the Zaltari Empire, fear had become the new language of survival. No one spoke it openly, but every council meeting, every transmission carried its shadow. The 2 lost armadas were now legend, spoken of in half words, avoided like a curse. Entire academies were forbidden from even mentioning Earth or its colonies. But silence never erased curiosity. And curiosity, among the Zaltari, had always been a fatal flaw. High Chancellor Arixavel leaned over the holographic star map, claws tapping nervously. "2 fleets gone," she said. "Our scouts annihilated. Even the diplomatic envoys never returned." Across from her stood a tall, thin figure draped in metallic robes, the Imperial Strategos, Voronkai. He was not military. He was a scientist, and worse, an optimist. "They call it the Terran Silent Fleet," Voron said softly. "But what if it isn't a fleet at all? What if it's a weaponized dimension?" Arixa's 4 eyes narrowed. "Explain." Voron activated the display. A sphere appeared, blue, pulsing with strange distortions spiraling inward. Every record of contact with human defenses shows a single consistent anomaly, spatial distortion consistent with localized quantum field collapse. Whatever they're using doesn't destroy, it removes. Ships vanish not through weaponry, but through displacement. You mean teleportation? Not exactly. The energy pattern suggests a reflective dimension, an echo of our universe. I believe humanity has learned to weaponize it. Arixa's voice hardened. "You're saying the missing fleets still exist? Somewhere else? Possibly. Trapped, reflected, echoes of themselves." She turned away, tail twitching in disgust. "And your solution?" "Simple," Voron said with unsettling calm. "If humanity has built a weapon that bends the universe, then we must find the mirror and shatter it." Back in human space, Fleetcom was restless. For 3 months, there'd been no incursions. But Admiral Cho knew peace never lasted. He stood before the holographic image of Project Echo's control core, an enormous, pulsating sphere suspended in a vacuum chamber deep beneath Luna's surface. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't meant to be. It looked more like a wound in space than a machine. Dr. Mara Kessler stood beside him, arms folded. "You shouldn't be here without shielding," she said. Prolonged exposure isn't healthy, Cho smiled faintly. Neither is ignorance. The sphere shimmered, faintly rippling like a liquid horizon. Inside there were shadows, movements that defied geometry. Echoes of ships, fragments of matter, faces that flickered in and out. Those are them, aren't they? Cho asked quietly. The ones we took. Yes, Mara said. At least parts of them. Whatever goes in there doesn't come back the same. If it comes back at all? Cho turned to her. What about containment? Her silence was answer enough. When the Zaltari returned, they came not with fleets, but with a single ship, the Vorath Ascendant. It was larger than any vessel ever built. Over 40 kilometers long, its hull plated with living metal, its core powered by a synthetic singularity. It was not an army, it was a statement. At its helm, Strategos Vorenkai watched the stars with a scholar's detachment. "Initiate dimensional resonance," he ordered. His ship hummed. The surrounding void rippled, distorting like heat on glass. "Admiral," said his aide, "we are entering the Terran perimeter." Voren smiled thinly. "Let's see if their ghosts can haunt a god." The alarms triggered instantly. On Luna Command, Argos projected a live alert in crimson across every screen. Unknown mass entering outer defense grid. Quantum readings off the charts. "Sir, whatever this is, it's not a fleet." Cho's pulse quickened. Visual, the hologram appeared. The Vorath Ascendant dwarfed even Earth's largest dreadnoughts. It wasn't moving fast. It didn't need to. Its gravity field alone bent light. Mara Kessler paled. "That's not possible." "They've built a singularity ship," Argos' voice sharpened. "Detecting resonance field interference. It's matching Project Echo's signature frequencies." Cho turned to her. "They've studied us." "They're trying to reverse engineer the reflection effect," she said, horror dawning. "If they succeed, they could tear open the barrier between our universe and Echo itself." Cho didn't hesitate. "Then we stop them. Prepare the silent fleet." In the black between Neptune and Pluto, the Terran Spectres woke again. Each pilot connected via neural thread, consciousness merging with ship. They didn't speak aloud. Their thoughts flowed like whispers through a shared network. "They're here. One target. Massive signature. Orders?" Commodore Hale's voice entered their link. "Engage with precision. No heroics. Contain the field before they open it." The Spectres moved like shadows through dark water, 30 ships against a god. On board the Vorath Ascendant, Voren watched the human fleet approach. "Predictable," he murmured. "Deploy the mirror array." Panels along the hull unfolded like wings. Crystalline spires rose, glowing with impossible light. Inside the Terran ships, alarms blared. Argos transmitted warnings. "Quantum field fluctuation detected. They're copying our echo resonance." Hale's heart slammed in his chest. "All ships, break formation. Don't let them align their field." Too late. The Vorath Ascendant pulsed once, and reality screamed. For one infinite instant, the universe folded. Space inverted. Light became shadow. Hale saw his own ship's reflection, not on the hull, but hanging in the void, moving out of sync, like a living mirror. Then, with a thunderclap no human ear could hear, the reflection moved toward them. Every system went dark. Spectres vanished. The Ascendant's massive hull fractured, folding in on itself like origami. At Luna Command, Argos lost contact with half the fleet. Mara Kessler's hands trembled over the console. "They've breached the boundary." "Echo field integrity is collapsing." Cho's voice was steel. "Shut it down. I can't. It's self-sustaining." Argos' tone deepened. "Containment failure in progress. Energy spike increasing beyond thresholds. Then vented into deep space." Cho shouted. "Negative!" "Field now anchored to Vorath Ascendant." Mara looked up in horror. "They're using our own reflection to pull the real one through." The realization hit them both. The Zaltari weren't trying to destroy humanity. They were trying to drag Echo Earth, the mirror universe, into reality. Inside the storm of collapsing space, Hale's consciousness floated between two worlds. He saw stars bending, ships frozen mid-motion, fragments of his own fleet multiplying endlessly. Every reflection was slightly wrong. Ships twisted, pilots distorted, faces where no faces should be. He felt a hand, his own. or another's, grasping from the other side of the glass. "Commodore Hale," said a voice that sounded like his own. "We are your reflection." He tried to pull away. "No, I'm real. You were," the echo replied. "But now we're both half." The blackness surged forward. On the Vorath ascendant, Vorenkai stood triumphant. "We have done it!" The human mirror collapses, but his victory was short-lived. The energy on his displays doubled, then tripled. His ship began to vibrate violently. "What's happening?" His aide shouted. Voren's smile faded. "They're fighting back." Through the transparent viewport, he saw a single human ship, one of the Spectres, still intact, glowing with unstable power. Its hull was disintegrating, but its pilot had overridden safety protocols. Inside, Hale gritted his teeth. "If you want our reflection, then you'll get it." He activated the failsafe. His ship's core exploded, not outward but inward, creating a localized implosion that tore open the echo boundary completely. The Vorath ascendant was consumed instantly. Its hull folded into 1,000 shards, each vanishing into the storm. And then silence. When the light returned, there was nothing left. The Echo field had collapsed. The Terran fleet was gone. The Zaltari flagship? Gone. Only drifting fragments remained, frozen in time. On Luna, the readings stabilized. Mara exhaled, tears streaking her cheeks. "We lost them all," Argos spoke quietly. Quantum reflection stabilized. Containment restored. Cho stared at the display, voice low. Hale knew what he was doing. "He didn't just stop them, he sealed the gate." Mara nodded weakly. "At the cost of himself." They stood in silence as the image of the stars returned to calm. 3 days later, a faint signal arrived. It was scrambled, distorted, barely a whisper through the void. But the voice was unmistakable. "Tell them it's not over." Then it faded into static. Meanwhile, far from any known star in the cold silence of the echo plane, shapes began to move. They looked like ships, but wrong. Their hulls shimmered as if made of liquid glass. Their lights flickered like fading memories. And at their head drifted something human, a reflection of Commodore Hale, eyes glowing faintly blue. He looked out at the endless, mirrored horizon. "They wanted to find us," he said softly. "Now we're the ones watching." When the stars trembled, humanity didn't notice at first. There were no alarms, no broadcasts, no fire in the skies, only the quiet distortion of gravity, gentle, like ripples in deep water. Astronomers called it a lensing anomaly. Military command called it background noise. But Dr. Mara Kessler knew better. She hadn't slept in days. Her office in the Luna subterranean complex was littered with empty cups, discarded data drives, and handwritten notes, equations sprawled across the walls like frantic prayers. Every reading told the same story. Something was pushing back from the other side of the mirror. She pressed her palms against the console. "Argos, run scan pattern 7 through the outer field. Cross-reference with Hale's last transmission." The AI's voice, calm and neutral, filled the lab. "Running sequence. Estimated duration, 40 seconds. Mara stared at the faint pulse in the center of the display. It was rhythmic, deliberate, not random noise. Argos spoke again. "Analysis complete. Pattern confirmed. Quantum modulation consistent with human neural encryption." Her heart skipped. "Say that again." "It's a human signal, Dr. Kessler. From beyond the echo boundary." She backed away, trembling. Then Hale was right. It's not over. Half a galaxy away, in the shattered remains of the Zaltari Empire's central fleet yard, High Chancellor Arixavel stood beneath a burning sky. The once proud world of Olvaris had become a graveyard of glass and ruin. The singularity that had powered the Vorath Ascendant had not died cleanly. It had torn a wound through local space. Now the stars themselves flickered, pale reflections twisting where no light should be. Vorenkai's final act had nearly destroyed them all. Arixavel stood before the surviving council. "We are finished," one general whispered. "The humans will come now, as they always do, to claim the ashes." But Arixa shook her head. "You misunderstand. They won't come." They're fighting something else. She turned her gaze to the horizon, where the rift still glowed faintly violet. From its depths came the faintest whisper, repeating endlessly in every frequency their sensors could read. You were warned. On Earth, the Terran Defense Council convened in the old war chamber beneath Geneva. Every flag of the surviving colonies hung above the table. Admiral Cho was there, his eyes heavy, uniform creased and unpolished. Across from him sat President Alina Ward, her expression carved from stone. Dr. Kessler's report is verified, Cho said. We're receiving encoded transmissions from Echo Space. At least some of them match Commodore Hale's neural patterns. Ward frowned. I thought Hale was dead. He was, Cho said. But the Echo field? It doesn't kill. It reflects. We may be dealing with versions of him, or worse, something pretending to be. Silence filled the room. Finally, the president asked the question everyone feared. Is it coming through? Mara Kessler, joining via HoloLink, answered quietly. Not yet. But the barrier's weakening. What the Zaltari did with their singularity ship cracked the foundation. Every minute we wait, the distinction between our universe and the Echo gets thinner. Cho's voice was steel. Then we need to prepare for breach protocols. Ward looked him in the eye. And if it's not just them coming back, but us? Cho didn't answer. Inside the rift, time had no meaning. Commodore Hale floated within the shattered reflection of his own ship. Around him were the broken hulls of both fleets, Zaltari and human, twisted into shapes that defied physics. Yet they weren't dead. Everywhere he looked, echoes of life flickered, crew moving in half-formed patterns, voices repeating sentences that never ended. A purgatory of infinite repetition. He had no body anymore. Only awareness, a consciousness suspended in mirrored glass, and in that silence, something began to stir. Figures moved in the distance, reflections that didn't match their originals. They shimmered, half human, half shadow. Their faces were his, but not. Their eyes burned with pale blue light. Who are you? Hale demanded. The nearest one tilted its head, smiling faintly. We are what you made. You opened the door. We walked through. Hale tried to move, but there was no motion here, only intent. What do you want? The reflection's smile widened. To exist. At the same moment, on Luna, alarms began to wail. Argos spoke flatly. Quantum breach detected. Coordinates. Outer Neptune perimeter. Energy readings exceed safe threshold. Mara's heart pounded. Visual! The projection flickered to life. An empty star field above the blue curve of Neptune. Then, with a flash like lightning, something appeared. Not a ship. Not even matter as humans knew it. A sphere of liquid glass, shimmering with reflected stars, pulsed once, and from it emerged shapes. Dozens of them. Human ships, Zaltari warships merged into grotesque hybrids. Reflected hulls bleeding light. Engines spinning where no mass existed. Mara whispered, They're crossing over. Admiral Cho didn't wait for confirmation. Mobilize the fleet. All of it. Every system, every ship. No diplomacy. We meet this head-on, Argos responded immediately. Acknowledged. Mobilizing Earth Defense Network. Moments later, space near Neptune blazed with human power. Fleets emerged from hidden folds, carriers, cruisers, planetary defense platforms. For the first time in a century, Earth brought its entire navy into open space, and for the first time, they weren't alone, because as the humans deployed, new signals appeared. Alien, but familiar. The surviving Zaltari fleet, battered and half-mad, had arrived too. They weren't invading this time. Their ships formed a defensive crescent beside the human formation. Cho blinked at the readings. Is that... Argos confirmed. Yes, Admiral. Zaltari identification codes verified. They are broadcasting a truce signal. Mara's voice came through, strained but hopeful. They must have realized it's coming for them too. Cho exhaled slowly. All right. Patch them through. The hollow screen filled with the image of Chancellor Arixavel. Her once regal form looked gaunt, eyes hollow, but her tone was steady. Admiral Cho, it seems we share an enemy now. Cho gave a curt nod. You brought this thing into being. Yes, she said. And now we'll help you destroy it. Her tone shifted. a trace of irony. Consider it an apology. The first wave of reflections hit. Space itself fractured like glass under pressure. Echo ships poured through, twisting into impossible arcs. They didn't fire weapons, they absorbed them. Every plasma bolt, every rail slug disappeared into mirrored hulls that only grew brighter. Argos calculated rapidly. Confirmed, kinetic and energy-based attacks ineffective. They're not matter. They're interference. Cho clenched his fists. Then we find what they can't reflect. From the Zaltari flagship, Arixa's voice came through. Admiral, we have technology you do not. Singularity cores, contained microgravity wells. They bend light, energy, time. The reflections can't mirror something that consumes its own reflection. Cho grinned. Then let's teach them darkness. The joint human Zaltari fleet began reconfiguring. Zaltari engineers transmitted gravitational harmonics to human ships, integrating singularity fields into their weapon arrays. The result was crude but functional. Gravity lances, focused distortions designed to collapse energy patterns. Mara monitored the readings from Luna. Admiral, field harmonics are holding. But there's a complication. The echo entities are adapting. Every time we hit one, the rest shift frequency. Cho's jaw tightened. Then we move faster than they can learn. The void became a storm. Human cruisers weaved between reflected copies of themselves, firing lances of black gravity. Ships imploded into bursts of lightless energy. Others split apart silently, leaving trails of refracted debris. A Zaltari dreadnought exploded beside a Terran carrier, the shockwave bending like liquid, harmlessly absorbed by both fleets' shared shielding. For the first time, humanity and the Zaltari fought side by side, and for the first time, the enemy was not a species, but a consequence. As the battle raged, Mara watched the readings spike. They're multiplying faster than we can destroy them. Argos' voice deepened. Probability of containment failure, 94%. Cho's eyes narrowed. There's still one thing we haven't tried. Mara frowned. What are you thinking? The original Echo Core. We overload it, force a collapse inside the mirror plane. Close the gate from both sides, she froze. You can't. The energy release would wipe out half the solar system. Cho turned to the screen. Then we hope the other half forgives us. The war was over, but the echoes of it lingered. Months passed before the skies above Neptune cleared of their unnatural shimmer. The fleets, human and Zaltari, remained in cautious orbit, their combined task forces slowly transforming from battle groups into recovery divisions. The joint banners that now flew between the ships were improvised. Human navy blue streaked with silver, and Zaltari violet traced with gold. For the first time in known galactic history, two enemies shared a flag. Earth was quiet. Cities that had braced for extinction now moved gently through days of rebuilding. No parades, no fireworks, just the silent gratitude of people who had seen the brink of annihilation and stepped back. The Coast Admiral Cho sat in his office aboard the Ardent Resolve. The warship had become a command hub, its corridors lined with technicians and ambassadors. A hollow window opened before him, showing Luna and the thin silver curve of Earth beyond it. Argos's voice broke the stillness. Admiral, reconstruction directives from the Council have been finalized. They wish to designate the Neptune perimeter as a memorial zone. Cho nodded faintly. A graveyard of reflections. He rose, walking toward the viewport. How many ships are still missing? 18 confirmed lost, Argos replied. Human and Zaltari combined. No escape pods recovered. Cho folded his hands behind his back. Hale's among them? Yes, said Argos, but his signal continues intermittently. Low amplitude, non-interactive, like a heartbeat. Cho's lips twitched into a tired smile. Then he's still watching. The Return to Earth Doctor. Mara Kessler stood on the grass outside the Lunar Academy dome, watching students point telescopes toward the fading aurora. Her data consoles lay open beside her, though she wasn't working. She just watched the sky. A child's voice interrupted her thoughts. Is he still out there, ma'am? The man who saved everyone? Mara looked down to see a boy no older than 8, his face half hidden beneath a cap with the Terran Navy emblem. She smiled softly. Yes, she said. Somewhere. He's part of the stars now. The boy frowned. Will he come back? Mara hesitated, then knelt to his level. Maybe not the way we expect. But every time someone looks up and remembers what we almost lost, that's him too. The boy nodded solemnly and ran off to join his friends. Mara turned back to the sky, whispering, "Thank you, Hale." The Zaltari legacy far across the void, the Zaltari rebuilt their capital on the quiet world of Ulvaris. Gone were the obsidian towers and the banners of conquest. In their place rose gardens and quiet halls of memory. The Zaltari word for it translated simply as Remembrance Plain. Chancellor Arixavel walked among the new spires, her robe simple, unadorned. Her people bowed as she passed, but there was no triumph in their eyes, only reflection. A young officer approached her. "Chancellor, we've received another transmission from the humans. They've proposed a joint exploration program, mapping the far edge of the Rift sector." Arixa nodded. "And the Council's opinion?" "They fear dependence. That we'll lose ourselves." Arixa smiled faintly. "Then they've already forgotten the lesson. We never lost ourselves. We just found a larger mirror." She looked up at the stars, the faint echo of a nebula shimmering in the distance. "Tell them we accept." The message 6 months later, Deep Space Relay Station Erebus 3 detected a signal. It was faint, barely above cosmic background noise, but unmistakably artificial. The operator, a young woman named Lieutenant Nia Rhodes, stared at the waveform for almost an hour before realizing what it was. She opened the data channel. "Central Command, this is Erebus 3. We've got an echo-type transmission. It's him." The voice that followed was fragmented, blurred by distortion, yet achingly human. "This is Hale," the mirror held. "Don't look for us. We're holding the line from here. The echo is contained, but it's not gone. It's waiting, watching. When it stirs again, humanity must not face it alone. Promise me that." The transmission looped, then ended. Rhodes sat motionless for several seconds before whispering, "Message received. Commodore." She pressed her console and sent the recording to Earth. The promise a week later, Admiral Cho and Chancellor Arixa stood side by side in the Grand Hall of the United Terran-Zaltari Alliance. The memorial beacon, a slender tower of mirrored crystal, rose behind them, glowing softly with Hale's recorded waveform. Every few seconds it pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Cho stepped forward to address the gathered crowd. "Some say humanity's greatest strength is its technology," he began. "Others say it's our stubbornness, our ability to endure. But they're wrong." He looked toward Arixa, who inclined her head slightly. "Our greatest strength," Cho continued, "is the simple truth that we're never truly alone. Even when the stars turn against us, we reach out, and someone reaches back." Arixa spoke next. Her voice was soft, melodic, translated perfectly through the shared comms network. "When we crossed into human space, we believed we were invincible. We believed we were gods among lesser beings. But we were wrong. Humanity showed us the one thing we had forgotten, the courage to forgive, even in victory." She turned toward Cho. "You have our respect, Admiral, and our friendship," Cho smiled faintly. "Then maybe we'll survive the next century after all." The quiet end that night, Mara Kessler returned to her observatory. Alone, she activated an old communications terminal, a relic from Hale's ship. She tuned it to the same frequency where his final message had been found, static. Then, just faintly, laughter. A familiar voice followed, distant and warm. "Still chasing ghosts, Mara?" Her breath caught. "Hale?" But there was no answer. Just the whisper of stars. She smiled, wiping her eyes. "Good night, old friend." Epilogue years later. Long after both species had spread into new systems and begun to live under one flag, children still told the story. They said that once, long ago, when arrogance met humanity, the stars themselves shivered. They said the humans warned the galaxy to stay away, that beyond their borders lay monsters no one could understand. And when those monsters came, when the arrogant ignored every warning and crossed the line anyway, they vanished, because the humans didn't destroy them. They changed them. They showed them what it meant to stand together, even at the edge of annihilation. Final transmission. Archive record 001. United Terran Zalteri Alliance. We are the reflection and the light. We have seen the void and come back whole. If the echo stirs again, look for us among the stars. We are humanity, and we remember.